We're going to kick off the love list with the running backs, and starting with a guy that's had a lot of problems this season. He's been a disappointment in fantasy, but Breece Hall. But if you hear from Breece Hall, he doesn't sound discouraged by a tough patch here that the Jets' run game has hit. Take a listen.
You know, if you don't run for 100 yards, people think you suck or whatever, but it is what it is, man. I just come out, try to be the same guy every day, just do my job, because I know whether we run the ball 10 times or 20 times, we always have a chance to win the game. I'm just thankful to, be around these guys every day and be able to, help these guys fight and keep on fighting, keep on slinging with the team. So just knowing that that's our mentality, that we got that never die mentality, that's one good thing.
The wild week for the New York Jets continues. It started with Robert Saleh being fired after the loss in London. And as we sit here, guys, we have breaking news this morning. Nathaniel Hackett has been demoted. Todd Downing, their pass game coordinator, will now be the play caller for this offense. A guy that's called plays for Tennessee. He did struggle in that role. I think the bar was low, Matthew, with where they were at with Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah, nowhere to go but up here for Nathaniel Hackett. Some of the rumors that came out after the Saleh firing was that they considered that Woody Johnson considered firing Nathaniel Hackett because, let's be clear, obviously the season hasn't gone the way the Jets wanted to, but the defense has been better than the offense
done their part.
To date. Yeah. They've done their part, and that was the part of the team that Robert Saleh was more involved with. Either way, I think I could put Breece Hall on the love list just because Nathaniel Hackett's not calling plays anymore. But how about this? They're playing the Buffalo Bills on Monday night. Buffalo's allowed the most fantasy points to opposing running backs this season. 5 of the 7 running backs against the Bills that have seen at least 10 touches scored at least 1 touchdown. Like, you get work against the Bills, you get into the end zone. We obviously expect Breece Hall, especially with a new coordinator in Todd Downing, to get the ball in his most talented players' hands. That includes Breece Hall. By the way, no team in the NFL has allowed more receptions and receiving yards to opposing running backs than the Buffalo Bills. I have him as a top 5 running back play this week. I'm back in on Breece Hall. I know it's been disappointing, but I'm back in.
Yeah, I was never off. You're never considering benching Breece, although I saw articles online, people saying should Breece Hall be benched. It's getting crazy out here,
Allen,
right?
Yeah.
He's been running back 50 over the past 2 weeks, and as you mentioned, the receptions. The Bills are giving up 7.2 receptions per game to the running back position. And let's be honest, the Bills, they're kind of having their own struggles too. So it's not like the Jets got all the drama, but on the field, both teams are kind of at a crossroads right now. So yeah, back in on Breece Hall. Don't matter that he rushed for a career low 4 yards a couple weeks ago. It's the NFL. It's hard. He'll get back to it.
And staying with the running backs in this game, one note here, James Cook did not practice on Wednesday. He's dealing with a foot/toe injury. We got to keep an eye on this one throughout the week.
There was a play towards the end of the game where he went onto the sideline. He got banged up. I think Ty Johnson came in after that as well. Now, again, it's the Monday night game, so he missed, in essence, a Tuesday practice for them in terms of how their week goes. But certainly, for what it's worth, I picked up Ty Johnson in a couple of deeper leagues, including the League of Assholes, just in case. We hope James Cook is fine, but just something I want to put on everyone's radar. Hey, there is a chance that this injury could linger.
So Breece Hall, top 5 play this week.
And I think it would be Ty Johnson over Ray Davis if Cook were to miss time.
I agree with you. They really like Ty Johnson.
Yeah.
So Breece comes in as RB5, not far behind him, Lawrence, for Matthew. Tony Pollard, RB9. The Colts have allowed the 4th most rushing yards to running backs this season.
Yeah, and you just look at what the Titans did the last time they played against the Dolphins. They established the hell out of that run. Tony Pollard, 22 carries, 88 yards and a TD in that game. I think they'll keep that going, especially with whatever's going on at quarterback. They don't know yet who's going to start there. So you look at that, and then you look at the fact that the Colts allow 119 rushing yards per game to the running back position. So when you put that together with the fact that the Titans want to run the ball, you got to feel good about Pollard this week.
It is a great matchup to your point about the Colts. They actually allow 165 yards from scrimmage to opposing running backs. Pollard, of course, used in the passing game as well. They've given up the 4th most rushing yards to opposing running backs. Oh, by the way, Tony Pollard has at least he's averaging 18.5 touches per game, and he has a double-digit target share in every single game. So Pollard, to your point, I agree with you, Lawrence. They need to take some pressure off the quarterback position in Tennessee. They're going to want to lean on the run, especially in a good matchup against the Colts. Give me Tony Pollard as a top 10 play this week.
Pollard with a great matchup against the Colts. How about Josh Jacobs with an even better matchup against the Cardinals? They've allowed the second most rushing yards to running backs this year.
Yeah, teams facing the Arizona Cardinals are averaging 26.2 running back carries per game. That's fourth most in the NFL, Connor. Running backs with more than 15 touches against Arizona. The reason we bring up that number of like how many running backs and how many carries they get and touches they get against Arizona, because running backs that have at least 15 touches against the Cardinals this year are averaging 17.3 fantasy points per game. I have Josh Jacobs as RB10. He's an RB1 this week. Number 8 in your heart, top 10 on the field.
Yeah, and the numbers aren't just skewed against the Cardinals because someone had a big game. Jordan Mason ran well against them. A couple weeks before that, Jeremy McNichols and Brian Robinson combined for more than 160 rush yards. You see what the Lions running backs did to him. So this is a consistent thing going against this Cardinals defense.
I'm sorry, Brian Robinson, Jeremy McNichols, they play for what team again?
Oh, the Commanders.
Oh, got it. I haven't looked at the standings recently. Do you know where they are in the NFC East?
They're going to win the division.
Let's go.
Get hyped how
Let's
Connor
go.
is for these Mets right
let's
now.
Go.
We'll transition.
I'll tell you this. If they beat the Ravens, they got it.
If they beat the Ravens, Jaden Daniels' combo is MVP.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, we talking
that's
that.
Then it's like, all right, you've already got Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now it's MVP.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm nervous. I mean, they're 6.5-point dogs to Baltimore. Yeah.
I think that was the same spread against the Bengals a couple weeks ago. It was
They've been
like
touchdown dogs before this year.
Yes, they have. They 1,000% have. You know, so I think they were 3.5-point dogs to Arizona, which was ridiculous.
Yes, they were.
Yeah. So
3.5.
Anyway, hail Commanders, hail victory.
Some others receiving votes at running back: David Montgomery, Tank Bigsby, who's starting to take over that Jacksonville backfield, and Tyler Algier. Matthew, it's RB 34, but he's got Carolina.
Yeah, and the Panthers have allowed the Panthers have allowed touchdowns to multiple running backs in 3 of 5 games this year. So again, even we know Bijan's going to get his, but again, the Panthers in the majority of their games this year have allowed touchdowns to multiple running backs, more than one. So we like Algier as a mid-30s play. Tank Bigsby, we've talked about on the show a lot. That's the London game against Chicago. He's actually led the Jags in rushing in back-to-back games this season. 40% of the snaps last week, which was a season high. Bears very quietly allowing 5 yards per carry to opposing running backs. That's tied for third, and they're also tied for the third most rushing touchdowns allowed to running backs, I should say. Dave Montgomery is just so solid, guys. By the way, Dallas, 24th in rush defense. They're tied for the second in terms of most rushing touchdowns allowed to opposing running backs. Montgomery has scored in every game this season, including getting multiple goal line rushes in 3 of 4 games. Like we always do our touchdown-only bets on Fantasy Football pregame. And Dave Montgomery, I think, is going to be in the parlay this week. I can sort of guarantee it.
We look at the hate list now. Ramondre Stevenson tops that. Does not crack the top 20 running backs for Matthew this week. He's got the Texans. Lawrence, we say this almost every week. The Patriots have the lowest implied team total. That's bad news for any of their skill players.
Yeah, and when you're like, you got Drake May starting. Definitely not Drake London. You got Drake May starting his first game. They're going to try to lean on the run, but it'll be a little tougher now. Ramondre Stevenson had a good week last week. He was running back 4, but now you're going up against Houston, who's a top 12 defense in terms of defending running backs in fantasy. So it's going to be tougher once again just for the Patriots offense as a whole as they just adjust to having Drake May in there.
I think people may have thought, like, oh, boy, I'm nervous about Ramondre Stevenson. It's going to be the Antonio Gibson show. Then last week looks better. And you're like, oh, we're back with Ramondre. And I'm like, no, I don't think you are. I think he's still a sell-high candidate as well. We talked about the lowest implied team total.
Yeah.
By the way, they're also the second biggest underdog this week. They're a touchdown dog. And in the 2 games in which New England has lost by more than 5 points, Ramondre Stevenson averages under 5 fantasy points per game, 4.1 to be exact. And even though the scoring numbers looked better last week, the truth of the matter is that he played 45% of the snaps last week. That was a season low. He played on only 36% of pass
the key.
plays.
In a bad script, that hurts him so much more.
So much more. And we don't know, like, in terms of Drake May, like, what this offense looks like. Hopefully he gives them a spark, but could that be more to Antonio Gibson? Ramondre Stevenson, even in a week where we've got a lot of big-name running backs out, we've got 4 teams on a bye, there's some running backs that are banged up as well, I still have Ramondre Stevenson outside my top 20 for the week.
Stevenson, RB22. Javonte Williams right behind him as RB23. He's got the Chargers. I mean, right now, Matthew, we said this about New England. We go right to Denver. They have the second lowest implied team total in Week 6. There's no expectations for this offense.
None whatsoever. And I think very quietly people don't realize that 64% of Javonte Williams' fantasy points this year have come as a receiver. I mean, we know Bo Nix does not like to chuck it down the field. He is much more of a short passer. And so Javonte Williams has been involved a lot as a pass catcher for this Broncos offense. Again, 64% of his points have come as receiver. Why do I bring this up? Because that is somewhere that the Chargers excel. L.A. allowing a league-low 4.2 yards per reception to opposing running backs. Jim Harbaugh has had 2 weeks to prepare for this suddenly, I don't want to say red hot, but suddenly on a roll Denver Broncos offense. Feisty. That's a good word to put it. They're feisty. Are they the Mets of the NFL?
Nah, not there yet.
Okay,
let's see if they can make the playoffs.
They're not that feisty.
They could be.
They could be. Like the outlook for the Broncos looks a lot better today than it did like after week 2.
Their defense is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
They're up there.
And give Nix credit. Like Nix was super gutty against the Buccaneers, I would say, in that week 3 game. Like
decision making's better.
Yeah,
he can move a little bit. It's not a disaster.
It's not a disaster.
Considering what he's working with, he's not throwing a Justin Jefferson out there.
No, he is certainly not. There are teams with worse quarterback situations than the Denver Broncos.
Browns.
That's one of them. That's one of them. That is certainly one of them. Anyway, Javonte Williams outside my top 20 for the week.
Oh, go ahead, Lawrence.
Nah, just real quick. The Chargers defense has allowed 1 rushing touchdown, 1 receiving touchdown to running backs, and the over-under's 35.5. So, don't expect much. A lot of defense.
I generally don't. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but just when there's a couple of rules that I sort of use as tiebreakers when I'm trying to decide between certain things. One of them is just like, environment. Like, are they on a team with a good quarterback, a good offensive environment, high-scoring game, that kind of thing. Another thing is just talent.
Right.
Just be like, I get it that this guy's getting goal line touches, but that guy's just a much better running back or whatever. And a third one that I will use sometimes is just in terms of matchup, obviously. I tend to favor defenses that have had 2 weeks to prepare, especially if it's a home game. Now, this game's in Denver, but generally speaking, like, they've had 2 weeks. Jim Harbaugh and his staff have had 2 weeks to prepare for the Denver Broncos, and so generally speaking, like, I don't like to go against that where they've had extra time to prepare. Or on the offensive side, I like that when they've had 2 weeks to prepare. Like, I think the Chargers offense will look better this week off of the bye, than they have generally speaking.
Makes for a tough matchup for Javonte Williams. Rico Dowdle has it even worse, Lawrence. He's got Detroit's defense. They're allowing the 4th fewest rush yards per game to running backs right now. It's great that he's getting some of the volume, but it doesn't look like he'll be very efficient with it in this game.
Yeah, he had a good game last week against Pittsburgh, who I guess at some time we'll talk about their defense, running defense more in the future. But
karma.
Yeah.
It's karma, Lawrence. It's karma. It's the mean security guards at Acrisure Stadium. That is cause
you damn right.
Right,
you damn right it
Lawrence
is.
was there too.
We
by
haven't
the way.
actually gotten your perspective on this.
Right. Yeah. Like Jay was there. Lawrence was there. George the Greek. George Savarikas was there. You were not there.
I was not
But
there.
Lawrence, you were there.
Yeah.
Did I exaggerate at all, or was this guy an a-hole?
It was wild.
Wow.
It was like I'm like, is it really that big of a deal? That's just what's going on in my mind as I'm seeing everything played out. I ain't really caring. I'm chilling, but I'm thinking like, damn, like they making my man jump through these type hoops.
They're yelling at him.
Yeah,
they were yelling
Jay
at me.
didn't defend you like this, by the way.
No, that's why I like Lawrence and I don't like Jay.
Because it just was, it seemed, the whole situation seemed petty.
Yep.
You know
And
what I mean?
unnecessary.
Excessive.
We just want to hang out.
Yeah.
That's it. We ain't doing nothing in what they call the stadium now.
Acrisure Stadium.
That's always Hines.
I thought it
But
was.
the big point that I brought up was, regardless of all that, just my point was that the guy could have just said like, "Hey, I can't let you in," or whatever, or your credential doesn't allow you, even though we'd been invited. It was a whole thing. Like we'd been invited to this area, and the person that was inviting us was like, "It's my area, and I want to bring them in." They're like, "Yes, but you have to get that area, you have to go through this hallway, and it's my hallway, and you can't go in my hallway." And they're like, we literally can't just walk down the hallway. And anyway, but my point was, he started yelling at us. Yeah. Like it was just like, get out of my hallway. This is my place. You're blocking my door. And we're like, the the hell, man?
I mean,
Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Listen,
again.
look.
And that is why the Steelers defense sucks. I'm just telling you.
I'm not a tall dude. I'm 5'8", right? So
Yeah.
he was probably a couple inches shorter than me. So he might have had that Napoleon complex.
Yeah.
Like he didn't get to be on a team when he was a little kid or in high school. So
That's
now
his moment.
he got
It's
this
his
little
moment.
job.
He
He
was
like,
his moment.
he
He
like
was-
stop.
He was 3 to 4 inches shorter than you, but he was probably 100 pounds heavier than you.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't even go throw in that part.
Oh, I
but, you
will.
know.
F that guy. F that guy. But by the way, I've invited him to be in the League of Assholes next year because
Well,
he
he'll fit
fits
great.
in.
Yeah.
He absolutely fits
Whoever the
in.
nicest person in the league is out.
But you saw that grandmother that tried to talk trash to Lamar Jackson, and Lamar was like, "It's gonna be your fault," and then it what, right? You know, like you saw that. That's why Pittsburgh lost. Is that security guard? I'm just telling you right now.
I could get with that.
Security guard makes the hate list. That's our last hate list member
Yeah.
of running backs. So
Yeah.
we moved to
And
pass
by the way,
catchers.
I just one last stat on Rico Dowdle real quickly.
Oh, okay, I almost forgot we were talking
Ken
about
Walker.
him.
Yeah, we were talking about Ken Walker. Talk about Rico Dowdle against the Steelers. He plays Detroit this week. Over the last 21 games, since the start of last season, over the last 21 games, the only running back to rush for at least 70 yards against the Lions is Ken Walker. All due
That's a
respect to
good
Rico
stat.
Dowdle, you ain't Ken Walker. So,
Detroit
21 games.
allows the 7th fewest fantasy points to running backs. It's a tough start for Rico.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.